Alright, welcome back to the channel. So if you're new here, I'm Jimmy.
And I am Ta.
And we are in the process of running through all of our Mexico travel content.
Yeah, and once in a while we would like to actually throw a bunch of informational content as well to better give the value to all of you here. So what happened in our Mexico travel vlog series is that you will probably see some comparison and some Filipino comment on Mexican vlogs.
So there's a lot of comments below that catch our eye, and we really wanted to touch subject on them.
So it's all start from Manuel. He has been subscribing on our channel since we were in the Philippines. That's all the start of all the hype of Mexican and Filipino talking about how similar it is. Like Filipinos say that Mexican just like Filipino in terms of culture, value, and things from what they see in our vlogs. And Mexican said, "Oh, you are my brother." And
since we traveled both recently, we wanted to touch subject on what we found very similar.
I think it's so interesting also because Filipino culture not only just similar to Southeastern Asian country in general, but also
North America,
similar to Mexico as well.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it would be like hitting two birds in one stone if we just compare and talk about the culture for both countries to get you the general idea and the glimpse of what you can expect when you visit both countries.
Philippines and Mexico. So when we first arrived in the Philippines, it was kind of a big shock for me coming from the US. Because in the US you don't really have this as much, and you don't really see it like really anywhere unless you're going into a bank. That's when you'll see it. But there's armed security guards everywhere. So it was like kind of a pretty big shock when, you know, they're standing at a gas station and there's a big shotgun or machine gun in their hand, and you're like,
I'm talking about is big gun.
Yeah, you're like, what is going on here? Like, why are there armed security guards everywhere? But it's really good. When we were talking to the locals and everything, we really realized that, you know, the government is giving jobs to the locals, and that's like a way, because there's so many people in these cities. It's a great way to give more jobs to the locals.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. From what I heard, is more of like it's like a big business going on with like the agent that supply all the security guard and things. But you know what is the good thing about this is because both Mexico and Philippines are the country that the media just portray
to be dangerous.
And
but in reality, like, you feel so safe
because there are so many security guards. And one thing though that set Mexico a little bit different from Philippines, that I see the great amount of police car.
Yeah.
Better than in the Philippines. In Mexico,
there's police cars everywhere.
Police car
everywhere. But there's also armed security guards in Mexico. So like what we were getting at is like there's a big similarity between the Philippines and Mexico in the terms of security.
Yeah.
Both countries are very strong at providing jobs, and giving security to the people that are in the country.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing.
Oh, talking about providing job in Mexico, if you go to the supermarket like Soriana, you will see that actually the person who put everything in the plastic bag, in the shopping bags, are all old people.
And I don't know if this is true, but one of my friend's family has a house in Mexico, and because he's a foreigner that owns property in Mexico, he is required to actually have Mexicans come work on the property. He's not allowed to hire foreigners to work on the property. So I don't know if that's true, but if you know anything about this in Mexico, let us know below, or in the Philippines as well, because I don't know anybody that owns property in the Philippines.
If we explore the Mexican culture and the Philippines culture by the Hofstede dimension, so basically Hofstede dimension is like the sixth aspect of cultural dimension. So basically this thing, if you take a look here, I compare Mexico with the Philippines, and one of the outstanding cultural dimension that you can see is about the individualism, which Mexico got 30 on the chart and
Philippines
got 32 on the chart. So meaning that Mexico and Philippines are like collectivist country.
They're very, very similar in this aspect. That's why they're scored so similar.
So the focus on we are more. Like for example, in Philippines and Mexico, one of the most like common characteristic that you will see in family is that people, like a big group of family, go out and eat together. And so it's more like about we gathering, like a group of people and things go together. In Mexico and Philippines, what we realize is that like everything is for sharing, everything is about family oriented. For example, the family run business, you will see a kid sitting there with their parents. The accent of family and thing is huge. And one thing though, when you visit, when you go inside the house, either it be Philippines house or Mexican house, especially outside the city, not like in Manila, in Mexico City, you will see that people with tons of family members live together in the same area of house. It's just like if you watch movie Coco.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of like in Indonesia. In Indonesia, it's the same thing. They have
in
like
Bali.
one house, and then like next to it will be like the aunt's house, and next to it will be the grandpa's house, and like it's a community of family members that live in that one group.
Actually, it's more like a gated community in Mexico, and then you can expect to see like
But it was
grandpa,
the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, grandpa, grandma.
The first Airbnb we went to, it was like his grandpa owned the house, and then it was separated by bedrooms for all the family members, and then everybody that rents from it.
And it's like 2 buildings, like uncle, aunt, tito, tita. All right, let's move on to the next one. Festive people.
Both Mexicans and the Filipinos.
They love to party, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They love to party, but I feel like Mexican are a little bit hardcore in this part.
Especially being in Mexico City.
Some people told me that actually when it comes to business, a lot of deal, a lot of business transaction and things go like complete when you are drinking and sipping tequila together.
I could believe that.
Well, but anyway, in both countries, it's like if you are the kind of person that love to party, you will not regret.
No, there was some points in time where like we would wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. to start work, and like they would just be finishing up their parties from the night before and getting ready to go out and have street tacos. Like,
oh, yeah.
It's pretty crazy. But in the Philippines, it's the same way. Just I feel like it's not as hardcore because they still love to sing, they still love to dance, they still love to have karaoke.
Actually, it's from the
Karaoke.
Karaoke.
Of course, you land in the Philippines and the first thing you get is a red horse. Welcome back to the Philippines. And you hear karaoke.
In Mexico, they start the dinner really late. And they start party really late, around like 11 p.m. Which in Philippines, Filipino are not that kind of like.
They party earlier.
Yeah, they party earlier.
And they end earlier.
Yeah, they. But Mexico are gonna be like.
You're gonna be.
Yeah, from what I noticed is that like even though your neighbor party really hard and like singing, nobody gonna complain. Like,
no, because they're used to it.
Yeah.
It's like if you have a neighbor, they're gonna party. You just
I feel like
like in America, the cops will be called.
Oh yeah.
Second, there's like loud music coming from the house next door. Boom, we call the cops.
In South Korea as well, and in Thailand too. But like in Mexico, we experienced this several nights in a row. Our landlord, which is our apartment mate, didn't really complain. They didn't do anything.
No.
I think they perceive it like the way of joy.
She said the one time she threw something like a fruit at him, but.
In Philippines, I realized people sing more, especially karaoke. Karaoke. I thought it was in the radio.
I thought it was a recording too.
Yeah. In Mexico, I realized that people actually dance more.
Yeah.
Either it be in the taco shop.
They dance everywhere, whether like
on the
to mariachi, the cha-cha. They dance everywhere.
Yeah. So that leads to the next thing. I feel like people in both countries, they are not shy to perform something. I would be shy to sing.
Yeah, I don't do karaoke, so.
But I love this one, the classic example you will see when you ask for the direction in Mexico and in Philippines. People are not gonna say that, no, I don't know where it is, and walk away.
They're gonna try and ask somebody else for you, like especially if you don't speak the language in Mexico, like if you don't speak Spanish at all, they'll ask somebody in Spanish for you, like, how do you get here? Show them your phone, try and help you. They'll literally hop on a motorbike and drive you to the waterfall you want to go to.
That is what we experienced so far.
Like, they incredibly go out of their way to like walk you to a place and show you how to get there.
Yeah, so it can be like either, first of all, they would just look up from Google Map and things and then try to find the answer for you.
Over there.
Or second, they would just like take you there. Or third, they will ask somebody else and then give you the answer. So there's no way that
you don't know how to get there.
Yeah, there's no way that you will
get lost.
Yeah, get lost. Especially when you ask for the direction. I think they're really willing to help. Oh, this is really obvious difference. Even though there are so many things that Mexican is similar to Filipino, but in terms of
PDA, like public display of affection, there's a big difference. So I don't know, it was like really shocking to us that when we were walking through Chapultepec Park, when we were walking through that park, like there was people like straight up almost getting it on in the park. Like making out hardcore in the middle of the park, where in like the Philippines you won't really see that.
No.
Like unless you go to the red light district, but you're just gonna see, you know, maybe hugging, maybe kissing. But in Mexico they have a strong PDA. Like they don't really mind PDA. Like they're not shy, let's say that.
Yeah, I think they are not shy to show the love. Love is a beautiful thing. In Mexico you can kiss your heart out.
Oh.
And the way they greet each other, this is one thing that I made a mistake when I made our Airbnb host for the first time.
Yeah, they hug and then they kiss on each cheek.
And I don't know what to do.
You're like,
I'm not used to it. Next thing, this is something that we heard. We never experienced this, but we have heard a lot about this issue.
We've heard it in the Philippines and in Mexico.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
So they basically call it like marrying up, is what we heard about in Mexico.
Marrying up too, but sometimes it's not just like the aspect of married, but it's like the way that they classify the group of people.
If you're marrying or dating somebody of a lighter skin tone, you're basically leveling yourself up in the social world, I should say.
In Mexico, I don't know, we never experienced something like this by ourselves, but just from what we heard, people who has lighter skin, people who look white is upper class, and then the lower class is people who is kind of like tan and things. But in Philippines, from what we heard, it's about the language barrier. So
if you speak very good English.
Yeah, so they judge the upper class or lower class by the way that you can speak the language. But that
now again, this is a very iffy subject, and it's not like something we think, it's something we've heard. And like in Thailand, it is something that is there. Like it does exist. And we have heard it in Mexico and the Philippines as well. Now, if you have heard anything about this, please feel free to let us know in the comments. Let us know what you think of this. It's like some people might not think it, others might. I don't, but
I don't. But this is something that exists, and I want to speak about this because also I feel it as well. For example, in Thailand. All right, next topic is about food, and the reason why we need to talk about food, of course, is because food is part of the culture. In both countries, there is high consumption of rice.
Yeah,
of course.
But in the Philippines, it's way more. Surprisingly, there isn't as much consumption of rice as I expected there to be in Mexico.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I expected them to eat a lot more rice, like burritos with rice in it, side dishes with rice in it. You can get rice, but it's not as common as I expected it to be.
It's not something that you will see in every restaurant. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
In Mexico, you will see more of tortilla and tacos. So
and tequila.
Torta, tequila, taco.
If you've ever been to Mexico, you'll know what we're saying. Torta, tequila, taco. It's like that voice. Tortillas, tequila,
tequila. Then they have like something called tea diet because they're like taco, tamales, tortilla, there's so many tea. So many teas. So
anyway,
get back to food. Sometimes you will see the store. Can I say the store that people make tortilla?
It's like a tortilla factory.
Oh yeah, but little factory.
Yeah, but it's like just one machine and they throw dough and corn in it, and I think it's corn and dough.
There are so many kind of food involved with tortilla.
Whereas in the Philippines, it's mainly just rice.
And
they just use a side dish of rice, and then they give you your meats and your main course.
It's just more like Southeastern Asian country.
Yeah.
Filipino also love fast food like burgers and things. So instead of seeing tortilla things in Philippines, you will see more of burger store, which is more of like the family-run business as well.
It's like
and
French fries.
It's so cheap. And it's so cheap too. It's starting from like 30 peso.
Yeah.
They call peso. That is another fun fact. Both Mexican and Filipino, they call the currency
peso. But there's Filipino peso and there's Mexican peso.
One thing for sure, in terms of spiciness, I give it to Mexico. But in Philippines, the side dish of spice, it comes in terms of the fresh pepper, like the fresh chili.
Yeah.
But in Mexico, you will see more of the salsa.
Yes, absolutely.
That gives you the spiciness. And also cilantro and lime. Mexican love lime.
And the calamansi.
And calamansi for Filipino.
Yeah.
Like for example, barbecue on the stick, you see in both countries. In Mexican, for Mexico, it's way bigger for the stick.
I feel like it's more, yeah, it's more like American sized, where in the Philippines it's more Asian sized, like the portions are smaller. So they say they have this thing called, you know, Filipino time or Mexican time.
Mexican time.
Yeah, like that's like a thing. So they're basically referring to them taking their time to either go places, to get food, to eat, things like that. But we've noticed it is like Filipino times, like extra.
For example, if you go to the bank in Mexico, you will see such a long line, or like when you go to grocery, and we have to be in a long line, and we look around and I feel like people are okay with it. Like nobody complain, nobody show the sign of this.
Because they're used to it.
Yeah, nobody show the sign of dissatisfaction. It seems to be the type of person that has a great amount of patience when they have to wait for something. So for example, when we were in Mexico, we actually have appointment to go to the night market with a bunch of Mexican, and the appointment time is what, like
7 o'clock. We were supposed to leave at 7 o'clock and we didn't leave till 8. So we were in like quite a rush to try and get there by 7 o'clock. And then we got there and they're like passing around shots of mezcal.
Yeah.
And they weren't in any rush, which is okay. We're on their time, yeah.
Yeah, so during the meantime of waiting, as we said earlier, Mexican love party, so
they were drinking.
They were drinking beer, mezcal, tequila time. Waiting time is like tequila time.
While we're walking around the towns and the cities, both in the Philippines and in Mexico, you would get such a warm feeling from all the locals.
Yeah, so
I mean, one, they're cooking and getting breakfast ready for everybody, but they're like saying hi to you when you're walking by.
They say hi to you, they say good morning, they ask how are you. It's not just like hola and it's done, but it's more like
they're trying to interact with you. Like in Mexico, it's a little bit different because not as many people speak English as frequently as they do like in the Philippines. It's a second language, but like they're still trying so hard to like have a conversation.
But if you can speak Spanish in Mexico, I think it's game over.
Yeah.
You're gonna keep talking
be there for an hour talking
forever. This one actually, there are some people comment in our Mexico travel vlogs and say that they realize that Mexicans smile a lot, and that is true. In Philippines as well, they smile a lot too. The appearance, like interestingly, if you look in Urban Dictionary, they give the definition to Filipino as the Mexican of Asia.
Yes, because
Mexican of the East, even.
Well, but I believe it has a lot to do with Spain, and like Spain being colonizing Mexico and then the Philippines as well.
Even there are some people comment in our video and say that I look both alike Filipina and Mexican Laura, our friend in Mexico, and she's from America. Basically she's from New York. She was mistaken all the time as a Mexican, And I was mistaken all the time as Mexican too. I and her, as you see, look totally different. As I'm from Thailand, she's from America. So meaning that in Mexico,
yeah, you can definitely see like some people in Mexico, they look just like, you know, like skin color and everything, like European
and
color.
American, like white, just look white. Outside Asia, I look like the citizen of Mexico.
Yeah.
Guys, so that's all based on our thought, our perception, our experience. We just want to give you guys the general idea on what to expect as we see.
What the difference and similarities are in different types and different things, because you know, you never know traveling. Like if we've always traveled Asia. So for us to travel Mexico was completely different than anything we were used to. Neither of us had been to a Spanish-speaking country, especially in Mexico, you know, and it's beautiful in Mexico and it's beautiful in the Philippines. We hope you guys liked the video and we hope it's helpful to you in some way. If you guys did like the video, please leave it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe and join along for the rest of our adventures. We have a huge trip coming up and we are very excited to share it.